It's like I said, it's a privilege to be here. I'm Adeola to come and address the graduating mentees of this new Win3 program of C-suite aspirants. I asked myself, what am I going to say? Why are they asking me to come and speak? And I realized that this is really the difference between this is what women need, and this is the gap in the market. Um, in my tradition, it's a praiseworthy action to remove an obstacle on the road that you think other people are going to pass, or putting another way, it's a praiseworthy action, maybe to light a candle to assist people to navigate through the dark. Because anybody who's here, if you got this far, then clearly you're smart, you're intelligent, you're resilient, and you probably had to work twice as hard as your male counterparts to get here. And that's not a bad thing. It just means you've got to work harder, you've got to be better. So I never resented that fact, but I acknowledged it. However, to get to the next stage is a whole different ball game. It's more about self-mastery. It's about managing your state and yourself, and managing the state and the morale of other people, your team, the company. So it's almost a difference between being a virtuoso or an expert, in piano player or an instrument player, and then being the conductor. And I remember an anecdote of when one day Steve Jobs, the very famous Steve Jobs of Apple, and his partner Steve Wozniak was an engineer. Steve Jobs wasn't an engineer. So one day, and he terrorized everybody in the organization and driving them to excellence. And one day, somebody said to him, "You're not even an engineer." And he said, "Yeah, I'm not an engineer, but you can't do what I do. I am the conductor of the symphony. If you playing by yourselves would be a cacophony. But me as the conductor, I create beautiful symphonies and beautiful music." And that's what you need to do as you graduate. And it's something that resonates with me, and I'm spending time on this because it was something I struggled with. I'm an analyst. I was a scientist, and then I was an analyst, and I loved getting deep into research and analysis, and building models, and getting very technical. And I struggled with having to let go of that as you move up the ladder and go into management, because as you journey up the ladder, you have to change from being functional. You have to change from functional skills to skills like sales, management, business development. You have to change from hard and technical skills to soft skills, and it's interesting having to make those adjustments. The skills you needed at a particular point in your career, as you move up the ladder, the skill set changes. And if you don't acknowledge that, sometimes that's what limits your progress. And you blame the organization, or they're not acknowledging me, or they're not recognizing me. Why aren't I moving up? Sometimes it's about you not actually changing the way you see yourself. So what I'm going to speak about most of the time today, because I reflected on what I should speak about, is a little bit of my journey, but more about how it's about self-mastery. It's the discipline of self-work and self-governance. It's the politics of the self. If you can't govern yourself, how are you going to govern anybody else? Your team, the company. If you can't check yourself, how will you manage the people you're supervising, even your family? To be in a position of leadership and authority, it'll be a disaster. It'll just be chaos. So in an organization, just remember that it's not personal. Nobody knew you before they hired you. They hired you because of what they felt you would add in value and service, what you had to give. And at every point in the career and every position, that is what is being assessed. Sometimes it's a bit unfair for women, and sometimes women don't project themselves, enough. But I'll come to that later. But before I leave this area of competence, I'm not saying you don't leave. You don't continue to be excellent at what you do, and you don't continue to, capacitate yourself in the technical line. Oh, you must do that. And in fact, my own admonition is to do everything that you do excellently, everything. never leave your craft and never lower your standards. I have a very, very taskmaster mother. I call her. She's a real, she has fantastic standards, personal standards, and standards she expects of everybody else. And when I think about what are some of the things that have assisted me in my life, is that culture that she sort of hardwired or browbeat into her children. If you're asked to iron a shirt, you better iron that shirt in the best way possible. And if you have to write a letter, there's nothing like an unimportant letter that can go out with a typo, or a report that is half-baked. Anything you do it excellently. And as they say, the way you do anything is the way you do, everything, because it's all about habits. So, I'll just speak a little bit briefly about my own career progression. As Fabia said, I started as a scientist, as a pharmacologist, and I loved it. And in fact, my dream was to go into the medical field and become a doctor. And when I finished my degree, it's a research degree, I realized that there weren't very many opportunities for my own craft, in Nigeria. And I felt, okay, let me look at the management side of things. And so I decided to go and do an MBA. And when I did an MBA, I just found I had a very natural affinity to capital markets and investments, and so on. And so from there, I left science and I moved into consulting, Anderson Consulting. And that was also a fascinating experience because it gave me, again, a culture of excellence, rigor, a lot of structure. But I left there because I felt, why would I, at the beginning of my career, be advising people on how they should run their organizations when I don't really have experience? And don't get me wrong, we're not telling them rubbish, because Anderson had SOPs and playbooks for everything. You literally just have to follow the formula. And I said to myself, I would rather be that person who knows enough to create that playbook for somebody else than just be sort of following somebody else's, instruction. So I left Anderson and I joined this startup at the time, investment management company. And because, like I said, I was very much interested in capital markets, and it was investment banking. And it was a big risk. My father was very worried, how do you leave a, multinational global institution for a startup? And even my colleagues in the firm on the audit side, because Arthur Anderson was the auditor, came to me and said, this company is just starting, less than a year old, they don't really have stable finances. Are you sure? And I said, look, I'm young, I'm interested in this area, and I like the team, very young team. I was part of the pioneers. And it was a fantastic journey and opportunity, no regrets at all, being part of a startup and learning the ropes, seeing a company being built from the ground up, all the challenges, the pitfalls, the risks, and the creativity, creating everything. And I was there for about almost 5 years when I got this bug and this interest in Islamic finance. Again, creative, different, required a bit of innovation. And then I left to go and pursue that field, first through education, and then I came back and I started Lotus Capital because there was nothing in the market. And again, I didn't intend to start up a company or to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for somebody else, but nobody was willing to take it seriously, and nobody believed in it. And that takes me to the other issue, which is purpose. When you find purpose, then it's very easy to overcome your fears, the things that scare you, your insecurities, the why should I do it? There's this question of, there's a term we use a lot, they, the government, they, the management, they should do this, they are not doing that. Who is the they? We are the they. We need to step up and do some things. If something's wrong, you be the person, you be the solution. And so because nobody was willing to do it, and I felt so much conviction about this, the financial inclusion, the lack of an alternative in this market, I was able to overcome my reluctance to be an entrepreneur, and I started on the whole entrepreneurial journey, which I've been on now for since 2004. And I'm happy to say it's been a roller coaster, but it's been extremely fulfilling. I've grown in ways I could never imagine. I've been terrified, I've been excited, I've been joyful. I've had to learn to manage people. And I think that's the biggest challenge that I had. It's easy to learn to learn a technical skill. It's harder to move from, IQ to EQ, managing HR issues, inspiring your team, keeping morale, corralling the team to perform, with excellence, and hitting the market, believing in ourselves, customer service, putting the structures in place, and adding value. Those are the things that that I had to grow into, as an entrepreneur. I want to spend the last section that I have to talk on some of the action steps that I think have helped me and I think could be useful to you. And I'm sure you've come across some of these in the course of either your book reviews or with your mentors. But I think they're really the things that we don't talk about. And as women, one of the things I feel is that we don't talk enough, we don't share enough with other women about experiences we've been through as we tread a path. And it can be as basic as, if you've ever had a baby, you just find that people haven't spoken about some of the technicalities of having a baby and what you can expect. And if a woman somebody else had told you, oh, this happens to you and you experience this, it makes a lot of things okay. And I take it upon myself, after my own experience to mentor any young lady that I see around me in my office or elsewhere who's going to have a baby and say, you know what, me having a baby, you might experience this, try this, do this. And that's why I think Whisker is so awesome, because it's allowing women to share their experiences. So not everybody has to have the bad experiences, and not everybody has to have it as tough as the ones that went ahead of them. And I think that's an incredible and admirable initiative. So, I mean, in terms of what we need to do, for me, I think it's all about habits. And there's certain important habits that you need to develop to go on the journey up the ladder. If you're going on a journey, in a car, let's say from Lagos to Ibadan, for example, you get the car in good order, don't you? You go and you take it for service, make sure the water level is right, check the oil, make sure it's fueled with good fuel, check the navigation, maybe get a GPS, find out what time is the best time to go, when is there traffic, what are the pitfalls, is it dangerous at particular times, of the day, what are the risks, what road to take, this way or that way, what to take along with you. Do I need water? Where can I have pit stops? If I needed to use the restroom, where along the way can I find the restroom? Or where could I get help? So you do all that, if you're taking a journey. And honestly, it's the same that we need to do as we have the journey through our career. We need to put ourselves, we are the car, we need to put ourselves in good order. We need to check our water and our oil. We need to check our GPS and our navigation and capacitate ourselves for the journey. So I'll just run through a few things that I think have helped along the way. And I think somebody mentioned reading a book a week or a month. Yeah, that's my number one. Read a book a week. Read a book a week, actually. But if you can't read a book a week, read a book a month. And in fact, read something every day. Even if that's all you do is read your scripture every day, read something every day. There's no excuse anymore. If you're in the car, you can listen to a podcast. If you're working out, put your earphones on and listen to something. There's really no excuse not to do that. And I'll just digress for a second. I remember Michael Phelps. He was the Olympic gold medalist, the swimmer, fantastic swimmer. I think he has the record of number of Olympic gold medals that anybody has in the world. And many people accused him of all sorts of, cheating, taking drug, performance enhancing drugs and so on. And I watched an interview with him once and he said, you know what, I'm the most tested person in sports history, probably. But I'll tell you why I've been successful. When you're an Olympic swimmer, most swimmers and their coaches swim and exercise 8 hours a day for 6 days of the week, Monday to Saturday. And he said, when I was starting out, myself and my coach decided that we're going to do it for 7 days in a week, right? Monday to Sunday. We made that commitment to each other. And he said, you know what? If I swim an extra 8 hours a week than all my competitors in a week, that's 8 hours extra. In a month, that's 32 hours extra swimming practice, right? In a year, it's 384 hours. And in the 4 years, because Olympics is every 4 years, is 1,536 hours of extra swimming that I've done, over the 4 years preparation for Olympics. There is no way I'm going to be the same as somebody else who is not doing those 1,500 hours. So reading a book a week or a month or a quarter, if you read a book a week or you read a book a month, there is no way you're going to be the same as somebody who is not reading a book a month. It's just impossible, So reading a book is very, very critical. And there's so many free resources nowadays. And then food, I talked about the fuel and the water. You are what you eat. So limit the junk food and take care of yourself. Exercise. This is a very tough one for me. I watch what I eat. I don't find that difficult, but exercise was tough. I got very motivated when I read a quote by Thomas Jefferson. He said, "Revolution starts in the muscle." Revolution starts in the muscle. And honestly, anytime I exercise, everything else in my life falls into place. I have the kind of clarity you could not imagine. I know what to do. My brain is turbocharged. And I read a book 2 weeks ago. It's called The Power of Habits, and I recommend that book. And the guy talked about a concept of keystone habits. And those are habits that when you do that habit, it has a multiplier effect on your life. It changes multiple things beyond the direct thing of that habit. And exercise is one of those things. When you exercise, you have more energy, your brain works better, you feel better, you look better. And he said something interesting. He says, it changes the way you see yourself. And therefore, it changes the way you project yourself in the world. And I understood that. Because you say, if I got up and I walked for 40 minutes this morning, or I jogged, or whatever I did, I exercised, I'm not the kind of person who's going to eat junk. I'm not the kind of person who's going to procrastinate. I'm not the kind of person who's not going to do my work. I have the discipline to get up and work and exercise when I don't feel like it. So exercise is a keystone. It's a keystone habit. For me, the other ones that have been keystone habits personally were, prayer. And the one that was a very big keystone habit for me, as a Muslim, was when I started wearing hijab, the head covering. It was a very traumatic experience for me, but that's a story for another day. But just changing that, it changed the way I saw myself. You can't dress this way, in a conservative way, and use foul language, for example. So it changes the way you speak and the way you speak to people and interact with people, and so many other things. But time is fast spent, so I'll just run through the rest. I found it was very useful to wake up an hour before everybody else in your household. If you have, especially if you have, family, husband, children, waking up an hour before everybody and just using that time as me time. Maybe exercise, pray, meditate, plan your day, and just center yourself. That's very, very useful. Power hour early in the morning. The next tip is one that I picked up from a Whisker advisory member, Boma Azobi, at one of her talks. She said, update your profile regularly. And when she said that, I realized that I hadn't updated my profile in years, especially as an entrepreneur. I'm not applying for jobs, I'm not dusting off my CV. So update your profile regularly. If you have a new position, you've done a new assignment, you're a member of a committee, just update it regularly. And if you're on LinkedIn, update it on LinkedIn regularly. It's important. It tells the world what you're doing. But I find even for yourself, you forget many of the things that you're doing. It gets lost in the day. And then writing your weekly or monthly achievements. I did that. There was 1 year where I did it at the end of the year. And I just wrote all the things that I achieved in January, February, March. And I was shocked that I had forgotten that year I had even gotten a new car that year. So if you don't measure and reflect and review sometimes you don't even realize how far you're coming and what progress you're making. And that leads me to sort of every day, if you can, journaling every day. But if you can't journal, just write down 3 things every day. Number 1, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Number 2, what am I going to let go of? And that letting go of can be the irritation of even your driver for that day, or whoever you're feeling some sort of animosity or angst or hurt or whatever it is. What am I going to let go of? That's a really, really strong one. And number 3, what are the 1 or 2 things I'm going to focus on tomorrow? Those are, I think those are very powerful. And if you can only do 1 of those things, write down what you're grateful for, because being positive and putting yourself in a positive state of mind is really, really critical. Invest in an executive coach. You're lucky you have the whole Whisker family to lean on. But having an executive coach is a worthwhile investment. Speaking out and asking questions at every conference or webinar. Get yourself noticed. Get over your shyness if you are shy. Make connections and network. I think I don't have to talk about that. I'm sure Whisker has that. It's incredible networking, and it's something that I'm not particularly comfortable with, but I found it's transformed my business whenever I've made made that effort. Meet up with your colleagues, in your industry, your peers, and other companies. Even this cohort that you have, meet up for coffee or have Zoom calls with each other and just catch up. At this level, your competence is a given. It's your relationships that are going to matter now. It's your relationships. And then somebody said, scare yourself. Scare yourself. Take a leap. Be brave. Step out on the ledge. You only have to see the next. What helped me to visualize this was when I think it was a secret I read also, and the guy said, if you're driving at night and you're driving from here to Ikeja, you can't see the whole road. But your car lights show you the next maybe 10 feet. And then by the time you move forward, you see the next 10 feet. And then you know what to do next and next. So just to be brave, just step out. And I have a friend, a colleague who's in the oil and gas industry, and a particular very niche specialized area in that industry that is very, very male dominated. And sometimes we call each other and we motivate ourselves. And she says, Hajara, it's time to put on our big girl pants. Let's stop doing small transactions. Let's do the billion dollar transactions. Let's go for it. Let's think big. So, I always held on to that expression. Let's wear our big girl pants, and scare ourselves and step out. Change your story. Change your story. And what do I mean by that? Research has shown that we have thousands and thousands of conversations with ourselves internally in our mind. Subconsciously, we don't notice them, and we talk to ourselves. So manage and listen to and monitor and control your self-talk, the things you say to yourself. Have a mantra, whether it's I am enough, whether it's I am awesome, whether it's you can do it, and speak in the positive. It's very, very hard because from an evolutionary perspective, we're hardwired to focus on the negative, because the negative is what you needed to protect yourself. It was important to know where the lion was. It's not important to know where the beautiful flower was, evolutionary speaking. So we tend to focus on negative more than positive. So you have to make a deliberate effort to be positive. And that's why the gratitude journal is very important. And listening to yourself and making sure you say positive things to yourself. Say what you want, not what you don't want, which is what we tend to do. So if you see a child eating with their left hand, which is in our culture, or give you something with our left hand, which in most of our cultures is not really accepted, what do we say? Don't use your left hand. Well, we should say use your right hand. You tell your brain what you want it to do, and it will do it. Our brain is an amazing, amazing, amazing machine. And I'll leave you with an acronym. It's called TAR, TAR, and it stands for thoughts. Your thoughts, which are a reflection, which are determined by you. You decide what you think about. You decide what you think about. Your thoughts determine your attitude and your actions. And your attitude and your actions determine your results and reactions. And your results and reactions, again, is a feedback loop, which then determines your thoughts again. So if you control your thoughts, what you say, making your mind a fortress, yeah, instead of saying I'm fat or I want to lose weight, I want to be healthy. I'm awesome. I want to be fit. I want to be energetic. If you ask yourself, if you say to yourself, why am I so fat? Your brain will tell you, because you eat too much, golly, will tell you. But if you say to yourself, how can I get fit? Your brain will also give you the answer. Do X, Y, Z. So I think making your mind a fortress and protecting it, even from yourself, don't allow negativity into your brain, is really, really important. One or two last couple more tips. One that I found very useful for me, particularly in board management, was not to defend myself. I made that commitment. If I'm given feedback, constructive or negative feedback, I don't defend myself unless somebody is calling me a thief. That's a different thing. But someone says, "Oh, this work is piece of work is not good," or "You came late," I'm not going to defend myself. Just apologize, take the feedback, make sure it doesn't happen again. It's very, very, very powerful. Just try and give yourself a week of trial of not defending yourself. You'll see what happens. Larry King, who just passed away the last couple of weeks, he said something that I really, really liked. I saw it in a write-up about him. He said, "I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening." So listening. And I was talking about beliefs and thinking. And there's a quote I have, but I'm not sure who it's attributed to. Some people said it's Margaret Thatcher, but I'm not sure. It said, "Be careful of your beliefs. These become your thoughts. Be careful of your thoughts. These become your feelings. Be careful of your feelings. These become your actions. Be careful of your actions. These become your habits. Be careful of your habits. These become your character. Be careful of your character, because this drives your destiny." So this self-thoughts, this self-talk and your thoughts is a chain reaction to your destiny. Just remember that. I also think it's important to pay it forward. I think Fabia, the executive director, mentioned it. Guide and lift other women. Not because you should give one gender, precedence over the other, but because women always underestimate themselves, or many of them underestimate themselves, and they need encouragement. And whilst a man who has 60% of the skills will go for a job, a woman makes sure she has 100% or 150% before she'll go for a job. So women need more encouragement than others. They need to be pulled up. So pay it forward and give them a kick and tell them to go for it. I think that's important. I'd just like to conclude by ending where I started. And Fabi, I think you can share the image I sent you earlier now.
I think I'm speechless. So first of all, ladies, can we just show our appreciation? First of all, that was super awesome. Packed with nuggets. I mean, I was writing, chatting. Ladies, can we please unmute our mics and show appreciation to Adeola for that powerful session?
Thank you. Thank you so much.